This story begins with a very serious case of cancer. Joyce O'Bill, a resident of Butte, Montana, had very little time left. Her only hope to survive was one last surgery. Joyce O'Bill's husband, Bob O'Bill, believed his only hope was to pray to the Blessed Virgin Mary, seeking help to cure his wife. If his wife was healed, he promised to build a life-size statue of the Blessed Mother in his backyard. On December 9th, 1979, the surgery took place and was a success. Bob O'Bill was thrilled at the news. Now he had a promise to keep, so the project began. O'Bill started gathering resources to build the life-size statue. The more people that got involved, the more the project expanded. Before he knew it, the new plan was to build a 130-foot statue and place it on the Rocky Mountains. The first challenge in the project was to find a place to put the statue. After extensive research, O'Bill determined the desired location and called the landowner Guy Ocello. After a few days of deliberation, Ocello gave him the land for the project. The next challenge was to create a path to the land on the top of the mountain. With a $250,000 donation from the Anaconda Company and help from 6 of his good friends, the road construction began. These 7 men worked days, weeks, and months, blasting their way to the top of the mountain. It was a very slow process, some days only gaining 10 feet, but O'Bill was determined to make it happen. In 1981, the road to the land on top of the mountain was finally finished. About this same time, Butte was going through some hard economic struggles. The mines were shutting down because of the lack of copper in them, so a lot of people were losing their jobs. Since most jobs in Butte pertained to mining, the unemployed miners focused their attention to the statue. Suddenly, the amount of volunteers helping with the project increased from about 10 to 15 to around 1,000. The number of donations also increased, and the progress on the project started gathering momentum. The spot on the mountain O'Bill wanted to place the statue required that a large portion of rock on the mountain be blown out to create a flat surface. This job alone took 4 years to complete, but in O'Bill's words, all the work would pay off. Once the rock was blown away for the base of the statue, it was time to pour the concrete. Cement trucks hauled 450 tons of concrete up the mountain, where it took 200 men to pour the base. The top of the mountain was now ready for the statue. Another challenge O'Bill faced was that he had no experience in building statues. O'Bill talked to Joe Roberts, owner of a welding company local to Butte called Roberts Rocky Mountain Company, about the statue, and Roberts asked an experienced employee named Leroy Lee if he would design it. After they had agreed, a few days later, O'Bill dropped by to give the company a statue of Our Lady that he liked to keep their spirits up. Lee started talking with O'Bill and found out there was no design for the statue at all, so he began making small models. After a few unsuccessful designs, Lee turned to the statue O'Bill gave Roberts originally, and he saw a vision. He envisioned what the statue would look like, how he would make it, and what materials were needed. Lee's plan for the statue was to make it in 6 separate pieces. He was going to make it 130 feet tall out of 16-gauge steel and make the inside structure out of iron bars. With the help of Roberts and his welding company, they started shaping the steel to make each piece. After the first 3 sections, the head, torso, and hands were completed, O'Bill got a call from the Federal Aviation Administration saying that anything built over 90 feet needed to have a blinking red light on top to warn low-flying planes. Thinking a red light would ruin the beauty, O'Bill decided to make the statue only 90 feet tall. Because the hands, torso, and head were completed, changing the height caused the head and hands to be bigger than intended in the finished piece. After 6 long years, the 6 pieces of the statue were finished, the foundation was poured, and everyone was ready to put Our Lady on the mountain. However, each piece of the statue weighed at least 8 tons. That meant getting it to the top of the mountain would be a challenge. The easiest way to place the statue on the mountain was to use the Sikorsky Sky Crane helicopter. The Army National Guard in Nevada owned said helicopter, but that caused a problem because no one can use government property for private projects. The governor's mother, a resident of Butte, called her son and asked him to get that helicopter to Butte. After the governor said it couldn't be done, his mother called him every single day to try and convince him. One day while the governor was at a meeting, his mother called. His colleague heard the situation and suggested that he request the helicopter to put the statue on the mountain as a training exercise, so the governor did, and the helicopter was sent to Butte. From December 15th through the 17th in 1982, the final 3 days of the project, Lieutenant Commander Mark Comstock and co-pilot Bruce Britton took the first piece on the mountain where the men were waiting to guide the piece into position. That same day, the second piece of the statue was also flown up. The next day, the third piece was placed. Then the final challenge of the whole project occurred. The fourth piece, the hands, were the heaviest and the least aerodynamic, therefore they were much harder to fly up the mountain. Right as the helicopter reached the top of the mountain, the hands caught wind and the helicopter flew off course. The pilot almost had to drop the hands to keep from crashing, but he knew that losing such a big piece would be devastating to the whole project. He prayed to the Blessed Mother, asking for her help, and miraculously he was able to gain control of the helicopter again with only minor damage to the hands. Finally, on December 17, 1982, the head of Our Lady was ready to be lifted into place. As the helicopter flew to the top of the mountain, most of Butte was watching. When the head was placed, church bells rang, horns honked, and people cheered. The moment marked the end of a 6-year journey to fulfill a promise. The statue was now a towering reality for all to see.